Price Helper, and today we're going to be covering how to make sure this area right here is all running right on your T4. Okay, so the first thing I like to look at is to make sure that my chevron drive wheel is intact. And how you do that, you're going to have to come a little closer here, and you see the tread on there? That's what I'm looking for. You need good tread to spin this tumbler right here because it catches in this groove right here. So if your chevron drive wheel is really bald, or if it's got too much grease on it, I've seen where people are going out of control with the lubricants, that can make it spin on this groove and won't make your tumbler spin. So just make sure you don't have too much grease or oils, and that you have traction on here, because it's got to spin this right here, okay? It's the only thing spinning your tumbler is this. Okay, so now that you make sure that your chevron drive wheel doesn't have too much grease and that the traction's on there, you can pull this pin back. If you come in a little closer, if you want to know how to take your tumbler out, check your tumbler bearings, pull this pin out, turn it to the side like that, and then push down right here on the top of that gas shock, and then slide the button back over until it lines up into the grooves. And see how it locks in? It finds a spot to lock in there when you line it up into the grooves and just push down on that shock. So now I'm able to pop the tumbler out. And why I'm doing this too is because I want to test these tumbler bearings right here. And it's the only way I can really test it is to pull this tumbler out. Okay? See how I wiggle it when I do it? Just pull it towards you through the same side the hopper goes on, and you twist it back and forth as you take the tumbler out. And that doesn't cause damage on your bearings or your tumbler. Come on. It's got a tight fit because it's a newer machine. There it goes. Okay. So once you got your tumbler out, you literally just spin these and make sure they spin. If your bearing is bad, it's not going to spin. It's going to get seized. It's just going to be seized up. Okay? Because if you have 1, 2, or 3 of these bearings not spinning, that's not going to make your tumbler spin. Here, come over here to this side. Same thing. You got bearings on this side too. Just give them a little finger. Get like the old skateboard wheel test. Just testing your wheels. All right. So once you make sure that those are good, now your tumbler bearings are good. So now your chevron drive wheel is good and your tumbler bearings are good. So then you're able to key into this part right here. So this powers the blade. See how I can even turn it by hand, and it'll turn this reel blade right here? But it's not making any contact right now. So if I turn it on, it does make contact, and that's where you're able to adjust it or identify if you have some kind of problem. Like if this has too much slack, so say if I try to screw this up and I put it like that, see this lever right here? Turn this lever and I pushed on this box right here while I have this button out right here, okay? You can do it with an outer image, you should do it with it out, okay? And that allows it to flex. See that? Loosens this belt. So if I set it at the wrong part, like right there, okay? Say you had an employee or somebody else do that. Now look at your belt. Still running technically, but you're gonna have a problem anytime. Shut it back down. Make sure this is where it's supposed to be. So loosen this, that tightens that. What I do is even just push on it again and just let it fall where it's supposed to. And then turn this button back in like it's supposed to. This is supposed to be in when it's running and out when you're trying to mess with it, like this. Pop it back in where it goes when it's running. And then this needs to be tightened as well. If you leave this loose, you could just come up and bump this and it's gonna, okay? But you can't do that when this is tightened. So that protects your belt from just getting slacked like that, you know? So now that you've made sure that your belt's intact, obviously if it was broken, you need a new belt. If it's even frayed, I would start looking at a belt because it's gonna go down soon. Or if it's got slack like we just showed you, then you can take the slack out like we just showed you. The next thing, if that's all working, then the next thing you might need to look at is your blade pulley. Sometimes your blade pulley can actually fall off. I've seen it happen a few times. And what you need to do is just either put it back on with some Loctite if you still have all the pieces. It's got set screws in it. So sometimes with all the vibration that happens, if you come in here a little closer, you can see these set screws. All the vibrations will make this kind of wiggle off sometimes because it's a pulley and it's being pulled on by this belt. And so eventually over time it can wear out and fall off. If that happens, we have blade pulleys on our website. It's 3 set screws that go in it. It's one right here. Once you remove the cap, there's 2 more on this part of the wheel. So it's actually, looks like one piece right here on the pulley, but it's actually 2 pieces that make the pulley. Okay, with 3 set screws all together that hold it together onto the reel blade itself. It attaches directly to the reel blade that runs through this bearing plate right here. Okay, this is your smaller pulley. Same idea. I haven't seen it wiggle as much as this one and go out. I've only, I think, done 1 or 2 replacements on a small pulley, so they're very rare, but it can go out or be missing too. I have seen where people just have it missing for whatever reason altogether. Okay, so now that we've made sure our chevron drive wheel is intact, our belt's intact, our pulleys are intact, our tumbler bearings are working, and we're going to test our gas shock right now by turning this to the side. Take the button out, turn it to the side, and push on it. It needs to push back like that. See how that action pushes right back? If it just gets stuck like that, that means your gas shock has gone out and it's not going to put enough pressure against your tumbler to spin it. So we're going to put the tumbler back in it, pull the button out, pop it where it needs to be, it clicks in. This is how you do a quick tumbler swap, okay? You just pull it out like I just did. I'll show you one more time. Pull that button out, turn it to the side, push down right there, turn it back where it clicks in, like that, okay? Now that you got it pulled to the side, put your tumbler in there. Spin it as you put it in there through the tumbler bearings because you're gonna damage them if you don't. So just spin it back and forth. Line it up at the outside of this hopper magnetic thing right here. So you see how it's got the magnetics? Just line it up with that, and then also this groove right here. So if you come over here, you're gonna be able to see what I look at on this side. Oh, there you go. I engage that, but before I take the button out, I make sure the tumbler's where it's supposed to be on that groove. Pop the button back in, make sure this guy's tight. Now you should be able to turn your blades on, the tumbler on, and not have any problems. If you do still have problems, like a fault light for instance, it could be that your adjustment knobs are too tight. Your fault light will go off if your adjustment knobs are too tight. So try backing them off a little bit, then turn it on. See how I back it off? Okay? And then evenly, one click this side, one click this side, one click this side, one click this side. And you just dial it in. So I'm already hitting on this side. This side hasn't caught up yet, so I might need to do 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now all of a sudden I hear it on this side. That's how you evenly adjust the bar. Now that sounds good. You shouldn't have any fault lights if it's making that little contact. You just want a little bit of contact. You don't want it to be way too much. You definitely don't want no contact. And that's it. If you still have problems, give us a call at Harvest Helper and we can help you over the phone hopefully.